Spider-Man is and always has been my favorite superhero, but not because of his powers or his villains, but because of how his character deals with his own humanity. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Connor, and I'm just a regular guy with no formal experience trying to explain why I like movies. And in this video, I want to break down why I think The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is one of the best, that's right, the best superhero movies in the entire genre. Now let's just get all the little stuff out of the way. The movie's villains, lackluster. The dad's storyline, hit or miss. And the movie seems to constantly be a setup for a big Avengers-style Sinister Six movie that never came to be. It's not a perfect movie. I am by no means claiming that it is. But it does do something unique that I don't even think The Dark Knight does very well. And I think most people would say The Dark Knight is pretty high on the best superhero movies ever list. And the distinguishing characteristic that I think sets The Amazing Spider-Man 2 apart is its relationships. I don't read a lot of comics, but what I have read and what I've watched, watching the Spider-Man movies, what makes him compelling is how often this guy fails. He's just a regular kid who got some cool powers and was thrown into all this responsibility that he never asked for, but inevitably had to accept. With Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, we see how he has to struggle and deny himself Mary Jane even though she wants him and he wants her, all because of his responsibilities, and he has to take care of her, and if he's with her, she's in more danger than she is when she's not with him. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man answers the question, what if Peter Parker gave in to his love and stopped thinking about the consequences? We get this.
Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, you stay with me.
This movie handles the death of a hero's love interest better than any other. I do not lie when I say this movie has stuck with me since I first saw it. Seeing Gwen die and Peter crying over her, begging her to stay with him, the slow piano, and then, the passage of time afterwards when he's like standing next to her gravestone and the seasons start to change, it's terrible. I'm weeping and crying, and it's a mess, and there are tears, and I still do it even now when I watch it. So on rewatch, it's not any less hard to watch. In fact, when Spider-Man No Way Home comes out, I want nothing more than for Andrew Garfield to see Emma Stone and just know in some dimension she's okay. There's literally a piece of my soul that was like shattered watching this movie. And I need some sort of reconciliation here or I'm never going to recover. No other comic book relationship makes me feel this way. When Wolverine has to kill Jean Grey in X-Men The Last Stand because she's a bad guy and all this stuff, and he's crying and he's holding her and then he stabs her through the gut, it's terrible. I don't cry. I don't feel that sort of connection with those two. When Rachel blows up in The Dark Knight, it's supposed to be so tragic, but I feel more bad for Harvey Dent's face than I do for Batman or Rachel in this instance. There are very few movies that spend the time and the effort necessary to garner the reaction that I got in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Because it requires you spend a good amount of time on the relationship between the two love interests.
Okay, works good.
And that is why you were number 2 at Midtown.
Rub it in, okay.
Insert director Marc Webb, who up until this point had been a low-budget director, and even now, there aren't a lot of people that would be like, oh yeah, Marc Webb, he's a great director. I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 gave him a bad, or the Amazing Spider-Man franchise gave him a bad rap just because it got canceled, and I don't think these movies are critically acclaimed, let's just say. But what he did film before being hired for Amazing Spider-Man was 500 Days of Summer, another romantic film that will make any single dude curl up into a ball. It's just that relatable and that great. It's a sad movie. Webb may not have been able to handle making a movie of this magnitude, but what he did know was how to make a convincing relationship. And dang, in both of these movies, Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield and their chemistry, that's the highlight. That's what you come for. They're just so adorable and great together. It's definitely a clear highlight. And for someone who doesn't mind romance, it kind of adds a fun little wrinkle that it's kind of a romance movie with a superhero. I think my point is exemplified by the scene in the middle of the movie that in any other superhero film would be instantly cut.
If we're gonna be friends, I think we gotta establish some ground rules.
Some ground rules?
Yeah, some ground rules. Like that.
Like what?
That laugh. That's off the table.
My laugh
That
is
laugh
off
is
the
off
table?
the table. You gotta figure out a more annoying laugh. That's still adorable.
Marc Webb just reclines and gives us 5 minutes of Peter and Gwen just being a couple. Or I guess at this time they're not a couple, but like you're just seeing their relationship and this banter back and forth. And it's literally like a scene out of a romance. It's like they just hit pause on the whole, superhero story. And we're just like, here are two real people being real with each other. Even though Peter is right, he shouldn't involve her in his life, you want him to ignore his spider sense. You just want more of them together. Of course, there's more relationship development throughout the movie, but that's my point, really. The relationship, Peter and Gwen, are both fully developed.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe we're on different paths right now. I don't know. Maybe we're just going different ways. I've gotta go.
That is the draw for this movie. Not Electro wanting attention or Harry Osborn needing a cure for some weird disease. Those are the reasons why this movie, gets knocked a lot. Those aren't the highlights, though. The highlight is the fact that Marc Webb was like, here's Gwen, a non-superhero female character who gets drive, who has purpose, who is a fully fleshed character, and here's Peter Parker, not Spider-Man, who is also the same in regards to how he's developed, and now we have a relationship between the two that also gets developed. So when the end comes, you feel broken because Marc Webb has set you up. He's gotten you invested in the two of them in a way that few other movies do, and then you kind of feel like you're at fault because you're like, I kind of cheered this on. They knew they shouldn't do it, but even I was like, hey, screw that. This is meant to be.
You can't be here right now. I'm not messing around. You can't be here right now. This is insane.
Guess what? Nobody makes my decisions for me. All right? Nobody. This is my choice. Okay?
I knew the cost, and like the characters, I was like, hey, who gives a crap? And then I had to pay for it. I think superhero movies would be a lot better if they invested in their relationships more. Marvel has done an amazing job with their Avengers team when it comes to their bickering and all the charisma, and they're a believable team in the way they interact. So Marvel's great at camaraderie and friendship, but relationships, romantically, like Thor and Jane, it just doesn't feel good. Like there's nothing there. It just feels fake. It feels stale. Pepper and Tony, honestly, are the only highlight of romantic relationships. But they did that in like 10 movies. They had a lot of time to make that relationship work. So it took them a long while. Marc Webb did it in 2, if not 1 movie.
Peter Parker. Sorry.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a mess. I'll give you that. Sometimes it's just weird. But it's a superhero movie that I doubt will ever be made again because it took a director whose priority was giving Peter and Gwen a beautiful, real relationship. And then he had the balls, the audacity to rip that away and give Peter one of his biggest, if not I would say maybe the biggest failure that we've seen yet.
Peter, where are you going?
I don't know.
He ignored what he knew was right, and it got his true love killed. That's what makes this movie legendary. That Marc Webb was able to perfectly capture Spider-Man and his humanity through the lens of romance. So that's all I got for this week. Amazing Spider-Man 2. Do you guys share my feelings? Let me know in the comments. I love this movie. This movie's great. I could watch it plenty of times. I don't know if it's my favorite Spider-Man movie, but it's definitely up there. I love Andrew Garfield, love Emma Stone. I hope you guys like the video. Like, subscribe, do all that. And I hope to see you next week. So long.